Meanwhile, earlier, I spoke with CBS News political director and Face the Nation moderator John Dickerson about that hacking probe, but I began by asking him about President-elect Trump's choice for Secretary of State and the attributes Rex Tillerson would bring to the table as America's top diplomat.
He brings the attributes that Donald Trump said on the campaign trail that he wanted, which is to say somebody who can negotiate for America. Remember, Donald Trump also said that he knew the best people in big positions in corporate America who were real negotiators versus those who were kind of phonies. Rex Tillerson, would seem to be in that category of people who has a real stature on the world stage. The question is how much that stature translates into the job. I mean, that's everything from does he get to hire everybody he wants to work for him? And then secondarily, who's going to make policy, the White House or the State Department? And then, of course, the big question in Washington, which I know we'll get to, but which is what exactly is U.S. policy going to be towards Russia and towards the rest of the world, for that matter?
Mike Morrell, former acting director of the CIA, with me yesterday, pointed out that despite the fact that Donald Trump sees Rex Tillerson as a world-class player and lauded his deal-making prowess, there is now no senior member of the national security team who has ever crafted or implemented foreign policy. Just how troubling is that?
Well, it's either troubling or it's a refreshing part of the Trump disruption, which is to say that he's brought people with high competency in one area or in their chosen field, and then he's bringing them all together. That is, that's that big risk, big reward. The reward is that they think differently and break some of the old-fashioned structures that have kept that have kind of limited the possibilities for American domestic and foreign policy. The downside is you have a lot of people who can't operate in the system in which they now exist and who have big egos, sharp elbows, and don't cooperate with each other. And this will be one of the great questions to watch with the entire Trump team going forward.
And in passing over Mitt Romney, again, he passed over a member of the GOP establishment. To that end, Republican senators like Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham and John McCain have already come out and publicly questioned Tillerson, the connections to Vladimir Putin among those questions. What sort of confirmation fight are we going to see here?
Well, just on the Romney question, one thing that's interesting, and now that it looks like Donald Trump is going to name Rick Perry, we're learning something about his interesting relationship with those who criticized him. Rick Perry called him a cancer on conservatism. Nikki Haley, who's been named ambassador to the UN, was critical of Donald Trump. And it seems that the effort to think about Romney for the Secretary of State position was very serious. Now, one of the hurdles may have been that Romney wouldn't apologize, or reporting tells me that that's one of the hurdles, that he wouldn't apologize for the things he'd said that were critical of Donald Trump. We'll never maybe find out, but what's interesting about that was that all about Donald Trump needing to hear the apology, or did he need Romney to say it to help with his base or his supporters? That's an important distinction. One is for show, one is for the needs of the chief executive. I think in terms of the confirmation, it'll be pretty big. There will be a big fight, maybe specifically about really what does Donald Trump believe about the world, and where is he willing to put American prestige and American effort in the globe to head off threats as much as deal with ones that are real and present at the moment. And the question of Russia is going to be Russia is a complex relation anyway, so it would be an interesting conversation no matter who he picked. But it's obviously quite interesting given Donald Trump's more generous feelings or view about Vladimir Putin.
You mentioned the base. This is yet another multi-millionaire TPP supporting pick of a billionaire president-elect who rode a populist anti-trade wave into office. At some point, is there a risk of alienating that base? What's the political calculus there?
I wonder. There were people we all weren't worried or wondered about if there was anything for Trump to worry about with respect to his base during the campaign, and his base seems so solid, as he said, he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose them. So I think he's got a lot of room to maneuver with respect to his base as president. So the bigger question for him really is the portion of the country that's still uncertain about him and how he speaks to that portion of the country, because his base seems in pretty good shape with him.
We should also mention Goldman Sachs has another seat at the table, Gary Cohn named to lead the National Economic Council as well. This relationship between Rex Tillerson and Vladimir Putin, John, though, against the greater context of what else it is we are discussing regarding Russian meddling in the election, the hacking accusations that go along with them, seems to further complicate this appointment, yes?
Oh, boy, yeah. I mean, there are two big things. There's what's the U.S. posture going to be towards Russia, and then what's the adult and serious way to deal with these allegations of Russian hacking. The Russian hacking allegations, which have been out there for a while, but have gained new steam with this reported CIA report that shows it wasn't just hacking, but an effort to elect Donald Trump. That's important, obviously, because of the integrity of the U.S. election system. But it has a secondary and very important other part of it, which is that Donald Trump, in responding to those allegations, characterized the intelligence agencies in America by their worst failure. In other words, he said, these are the people who thought there were WMD in Iraq. That's a big shot to take at your intelligence agents who are doing work for the United States and with whom you'll have to work. So that's its own separate big issue out there. But that'll certainly get into the discussion of more broadly the geopolitical posture and strategy for the United States with respect to Russia. And Tillerson's not the only one here. You've got James Mattis at the Department of Defense, who's got his own views about Russia, and obviously the National Security Agency within the White House. So getting all those views to be coordinated will be really tricky. And that's just one part of the world, let alone North Korea, China, the Middle East.
Yeah, I'll get you out of here on this one, John. But that is another thing in play here. A corporate CEO such as Rex Tillerson will now also have to find a way to align himself, or at least sync up with a whole lot of military might in this administration as well. What sort of dynamics are in play there?
Well, you've got strong egos. I mean, people who have been successful running big operations, and in a way, they are all. I mean, on the positive side, they all walk into the room, and everybody knows that this is a team of people who have competency. On the other side, you have people who aren't used to situations in which they're getting a lot of pushback, and that's a situation in which a strong president really makes, because when you, as many presidents have said, no decision comes to the president that's easy. There is huge downside no matter which way that his president decides to go. And a lot of those tough decisions are going to be fought out with people with very strong senses of themselves. It means Donald Trump is going to have to make some tough calls with some really strong advocates on either side of those positions. And that's going to be, I mean, it's going to be hard.
It will be hard indeed. He has hired his Secretary of State. Rex Tillerson is the choice. John Dickerson, as always, the insight is very much appreciated.
Thanks, Josh.